It's interesting that the comments that I have here waiting for me, greeting me in the super chat, or not super chat, in the comments here are from, well, thank you, Robert Hendrickson is a new member. Some small Lockham says, as clickbait goes, this one must rank in the top for the year. Okay. So in the top for the year. So what is he talking about? The clickbait title. The title is Will Russia Destroy NATO? And in parentheses, NATO is being tested and failing. I think NATO is being tested and NATO is failing. That's pretty undeniable that NATO is being tested. So tell me what you think about what you see here. One person said, "Oh, hello, Kevin's here." Kevin, you got background or Ron, you gotta turn the noise off in the background.
Yeah, Prof.
Welcome.
I'm in, and I got a question.
Okay. What's your question?
I'd love to chat
Let's chat.
about, and I do have one on the NATO situation.
Well, let's talk. Tell me. Talk to me. That's what we're here for.
Just not hearing you at the moment.
You're not hearing me?
I'm gonna adjust volume. There.
So, what's your question?
Okay, my question, Prof. Can I go with it?
Please do. Can you not hear me talk still?
Volume.
Can you not hear me? Okay, while we're working that out, let me continue to talk about how Mestro says that except that every political and military commentator agrees that NATO has never looked weaker. Even Trump, when he was sworn in, didn't vow to defend NATO like every president has done before. So there's something to this. So
I see that my mic's live.
Yeah, your mic's live. We can hear you, Kevin, but you can't hear us for some reason. Can the rest of you hear me? Because in the chat, can you tell me if you can hear me there? Because that's important to know. So if not, then it's my problem. Like, let me go check my settings, my audio. Yeah, my mic is on. So
all right,
that's not a question.
Here's my question.
Okay, can you hear me?
We're looking at east flank of NATO.
Mm-hmm.
Putin against Turkey.
Yep.
Turkey shoots down jets. Putin doesn't go after Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
America doesn't go and rebuke Turkey. Yet over Poland and the Baltic areas, we're not taking Putin out of the air, but would America complain about that? Or would they back either up if the Polish and those other forces took him out?
That is an excellent question.
That's my question.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I don't know if you can hear me yet, Kevin, or if you're going to, mute yourself and then listen to it in the background. I'm muting you right now. And so whoever wants to speak next, just get in the queue. Ron, I guess you're next if you want to talk. So that's a great question. I don't know what Trump's reaction would be to something like that. For example, like, would he be like, hey, you can't do this. This is NATO. You're going to drag us all in. Or like if it would be a stronger response than something like what we have seen. Hold on, Ron. We'll be right there. So if it'll be a stronger response than what he has seen where he just doesn't like it. But that's a good question. What Turkey did seemed to solve the problem. Russia never played that game again. What Poland did is insufficient. What Estonia did is insufficient. And calling for Article 4, it feels very much like the time just before World War II where leaders like, for example, in Britain were saying, well, peace in our time. Like they just did not want to potentially go down that path. But that's the path you're going down. I mean, you are on that path and you make it more likely that you're going to have a problem if you don't do something about it. So I saw something in my news feed today, which was talking about like, hey, look, just say this. If there's another incursion over the border, Taurus is definitely going to be used to take out whatever those launchers are, or something like that. Who was it? Adam I'm trying to remember his last name, Kinzinger, was like, okay, well, just, if you want to actually get to something, release 2 billion of that aid every day until such time as it stops. Or 2 billion of the frozen assets as aid to Ukraine. Now, I'm not a big fan, but I'm not saying that that's the solution. I'm saying that you've got to do something because incentives matter. The first thing they'll teach you, and I don't have an economics degree. I do have the 18 graduate credit hours in economics, so I can teach lower level econ. The first thing they teach you is incentives matter. So, but what would the response be? Man, I I don't know. But put it in the chat. I'm curious what you think the response would be. Would it be something positive that would be backing what that NATO country did, or would it be don't do that because you're going to cause World War III or something like that? I really don't know. Ron, you were about to chime in, so go ahead and ask your question. Ron, if you're there. If not, Jonathan McElravy can jump in, or Alex. Hello. No, I know you. I know you guys aren't bashful. Hello. Go ahead,
Hello,
Jonathan.
Professor. We can't hear you on Podbean.
You can't hear me on Podbean?
We can't hear you on Podbean, so it's difficult to.
That's very strange. I wonder what the setting is that's causing that.
My only thing with this is we're looking at a time where is NATO dead? I think without the U.S. leadership, it is in disarray. And going forward, I think NATO's function is going to be more like how do we communicate with each other. They've done that in the past. I mean, how do the French speak to the British, speak to the Germans, so on and so forth. They have that worked out, and that foundation will be useful going forward. But as far as a unified force against Russia or any other adversary, I think without the U.S. leadership, that time has passed. That's all I have.
Yeah, you might be right. Let's see if can you hear me now on Podbean if I'm talking that way?
Yes.
Did that come through? Okay. Yeah, I think you're right, Jonathan. I think that without U.S. leadership, NATO has a real problem, and the system has revolved so long around that, and it's taken U.S. leadership for granted that was just always going to be there. And when the U.S. withdraws, it creates a real problem. Alex, did you have a question?
Oh, I can weigh in
Yeah, go ahead.
on top of what John said. So NATO was not really tested before, so when you have any organization, any structure, you would know if it works or doesn't work when it tested in action. And Article 5 was engaged only once, and by United States ourselves. Like we implemented Article 5 and allies come to our aid. So before, if you're talking about, for example, when NATO or not NATO acted before, let's say that when Turkey shut down Russian jet in Syria, well, crossing in Turkey, crossing over from Syria, you could say that it was a NATO action, or you could say that it was Erdogan action, and Turkey is a part of NATO.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point.
And potentially, this is how NATO would actually operate, so like it's really hard to tell you, like if NATO is dead or alive, so we could say that NATO is untested. Like it is great to have the structure. It's so much better to have the structure than not to have the structure. But potentially what needs to happen going forward, Poland or Estonia or any other Baltic country, so Finland, like they would need to act and then discuss it. Just shut it down and then discuss it.
So
because you
yeah, so you're onto a really interesting thought here. NATO. So again, somebody started this by saying this is the most clickbaity, or is it? I got to go back to the very beginning. As clickbait goes, this one must rank as a top 10 for the year. What absolute rubbish about my title. Will Russia destroy NATO? But if NATO doesn't actually do something, then its threat is no longer a credible threat. and it will be essentially, what's the word I'm looking for? A eunuch. I mean, it's really not.
Mhm.
It's really not doing what it's there to do, and the threat's only credible if it's willing to take action when it needs to take action. And I mean, I'm not trying to be clickbaity. I'm saying I think NATO has, and they came out like Mark, sorry, uh, Ruta came out the other day and said, "I'm so proud of what they did and how they, comported themselves." And I'm like, you didn't really do hardly anything. What you did show was you exposed that you're not prepared like Ukraine's prepared. So I think you're onto something, Alex. I think that's very true. Okay, Kevin, can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, I can hear you. We've now got volume and
Yeah, I'm
sound.
sorry. I had some kind of setting on the Podbean side that wasn't quite on, and so that's my error. So I apologize. Did I answer your question though?
No, well, I'd like to expand on where
Go
Alex
ahead.
was, and also where I think Jonathan was, a couple of them. When you look at what Turkey's doing, Turkey has had an active and engaged variety of organ.
Now I can't hear you twice. You kind of faded in, faded out twice. Can you say that question again?
So Turkey is fighting
Hmm.
all the time, using its military. When you go to NATO on the western flank has not really gone toe to toe with Putin.
Hmm.
They've deployed a little bit into Libya
Hmm.
and a few other places. So untested against Putin,
Hmm.
and Putin is testing. Unfortunately for NATO on the western flank, the leader, America, has gone and said, yeah, we're not too sure how much we're going to back everybody up. And so that makes for a degree of hesitancy. If the Western flank had more confidence in its military kit and capabilities, maybe they could engage. That's where I am at right now. The certain nations are lacking confidence in taking on Putin to a certain level because
Yeah, they're lacking confidence at a certain level because you faded out one more time. Okay, well, yeah, I think you're right about that. They were lacking that confidence, and maybe it is because they are not battle tested like you would hope that they would be. So yeah, maybe that's what's going on. I see Rachel here in the Rachel from Wisconsin in here. If you have a question, you can unmute and ask your question, Rachel.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. And forgive me, I'm joining slightly late. So if something was brought up like this ahead of time, I apologize. My biggest question to you, I have a few hypotheses, but I'm wondering about US in particular, the populist movement, and what your opinion would be on how it has gained so much traction within specifically the Republican. As I'm a conservative as well, I would
Mhm.
say I'm a moderate conservative, but I'm just very confused and concerned about the expansion of the populist movement here in the United States. It's very concerning to me.
Yeah, they're fellow travelers. They look similar, but they're really not. And so it's like wheat and chaff. I mean, they both they look like the same thing until you actually start to get into the details. They both have a
Mhm.
real tendency to look skeptically at big government. Conservatives do that, but populists really, 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 really do that. Populists also have kind of a conspiracy theory kind of arc to the way that they think. If you watch a Hallmark movie at Christmas, you'll find out that she's dating the wrong guy because he's a businessman, and of course, the businessman's not a good guy. She has to date the guy that's a woodworker that on the side goes to the homeless shelter or the pet shelter to tend to puppies. Right? That's the real guy, and he was right under her nose the whole time. But the businessman's bad. The populist is going to look at it as the
True, but I mean, yes, it does, and I get what you're saying. I'm just kind of curious. So my hypothesis as to how it has gained so much traction is basically based upon social media. Is that something that you would agree with, or is it people talking amongst their peers? I'm just kind of curious as to how it's spread so fast
Sorry, I lost my audio for a
and so
moment. So
far.
your question was how it spread so fast. So
And so far, yes.
Trump is a very different animal than Bush. Trump came in and he was rebuking Bush for Iraq and Afghanistan, saying we should never have been in those kind of things, and that resonated with some people. And so, but there's an undercurrent there, but the undercurrent has become the dominant strain within the Republican Party, unfortunately, and that dominant populism, which is very different. It's a there's a certain bombast to it that is like almost a reflection of, and okay, this is me telling you my perception, and so this is just how I process this. There's the woke
Mhm.
left, and then there's the MAGA right. And the MAGA right, I don't think would have become the MAGA right without the woke left. Now, the woke left maybe wouldn't have become the woke left without the Tea Party, but the Tea Party was different in spirit than the progressive woke left, which was really vocal, deplatforming, that sort of thing. But the MAGA right, the populists on the right-hand side just had different issues, and they were using similar tactics to the woke left. So for however that works, that's how I process it. I could be wrong. People will disagree with me, I'm sure. But yeah, that is what I would perceive.
No, that actually makes a lot of sense because I'm pushing 50, right? So like
Uh-huh.
I'm not a spring chicken here. So I remember, Bush. I remember Reagan.
Mhm.
And that actually makes a lot of sense, and I hadn't thought about it
And you remember
contributing some of that.
civility, right?
Oh yes,
I mean, think about
yes.
think about the administration. I'll let you speak in just a second. Think about the administration. We have Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. In the first Trump administration, you had Mad Dog Mattis, whose name sounded
Mhm,
pretty formidable, but he was actually competent as a day is long. Trump didn't want competence;
mhm.
he wanted loyalty more than competence here in the second term, and so we got Pete Hegseth. But think about how Hegseth would have deported himself, or Secretary Gates before him. Remember Rob Gates? I mean, like these guys
Mhm.
were dignified and serious, and we have kind of lost that. It's almost like the analogy that I've given many times now is the it's a difference between the WWE. So you said you're pushing 50. I'm 52. So we're
Mhm,
pretty close. Remember the
mhm.
WWF? You might not have watched the WWF in the 80s, but the
I did
WWF.
actually.
Okay,
Yes, I
so the
did.
WWF was kind of like there was the good guys and the bad guys, and it was comical almost but it was fun. Then there was this time period in the 90s and 2000s that were like it was called the bad boy era of professional wrestling, where it
Mhm.
became overtly sexualized and became like much more just like foul. Uh, it feels like that's what happened to society, where we've gone from being civil to each other. Like I kind of miss a
Mhm.
time where those on the left, because I make no bones about it, I'm a conservative, right? Where those on the left will
Mhm.
actually want to sit down and have a conversation over a cup of coffee and prove to me why I'm wrong, while I get to prove to them why they're wrong, and we can still like each other. So we're
Yep.
beyond that in
Yep. I agree.
society, and so that's a big part of what has happened. So I you can finish whatever your thought was.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I too miss those days of civility. I am a moderate conservative, and I'm in a very Trump centric area,
Mhm.
and I'm obviously a pro Ukraine. So when I go out to my local pub or restaurant or whatever, I'm wearing something that represents my pro Ukraine, and people will actually come up to me and
Yeah.
start verbally harassing me and calling me a
That's what I mean
traitor.
by that
And
woke tactics adopted by MAGA. It's
yes,
really bizarre, and maybe it didn't start with woke. Let's even say that's perhaps an option, but we shouldn't be doing that. Now, I relish those opportunities. I'll be wearing that thing,
me too.
and oh yeah, 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 yeah. Because then I'll say, so when did Russia become the good guys? Like, what would Reagan have said? And but so I'm gonna push back on that, right? Do you remember what it was like being a Republican just 10 years ago? Like, what happened? What
I
changed?
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
100% I do.
so
And
that's the
I will
conversation
bring it
I
up.
have.
The very first thing that I say to these antagonistic, and usually older gentlemen, my age or older,
Yeah, and they
I'll
should
say,
know
hey,
better. I
I
would
just
understand if it was a 20-year-old
exactly.
that didn't have their head yet together. Like, I get that. Your
Yes,
brain's not full of 20, right? I would understand that. But when you're like 60 and you're like that, like something misfired.
it's quite concerning. Absolutely. And I will bring it up to him and say, hey, I just got back from Ukraine. Would you like to see some of my pictures? Would you like to see what's going on the ground? What are your concerns about this? And then when they bring up the financials, right? I've actually done very, very simple math. You look at the amount of taxpayers, right, in the United States. That's public record. Look at how much aid we had provided under Biden, and then you break that down by the taxpayers. It's basically a cup of coffee a month.
Yeah.
It's negligible per person.
Yeah. And so where were you in Ukraine and what were you doing in Ukraine?
Um,
If you can
do you
say.
know Rick the Ukrainian? Yeah. Do you know Rick the Ukrainian, like
Sure.
that YouTube channel? I
Yeah.
think
Rick and I have
Greg
talked a number of
Terry.
times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So if you look on his channel, just from a couple of weeks ago, I was doing live streams with him in Kyiv.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, so like just humanitarian stuff. I'm actually partnering with, and I think Greg's going to have this on as well. But I'm partnering with an American who's going to be joining the military out there,
Mhm.
and we're trying to do a fundraiser to get 1,000 trucks into Ukraine. So I'm actually putting my own self out there, and going to be, instead of just donating, I'm actually going to be trying to raise funds as well. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to move on. I only have 9 minutes left because I try to keep these down to
Oh,
30
sorry.
minutes. No
Thank
problem.
you for
I
your
asked you the
time.
questions. Ron, I didn't get to you yet. So, Ron, if you want to talk, you're welcome to. If not, I don't know who VCHDEB is. But if Ron doesn't talk, who like you put some gibberish for your name when you're.
Yeah, I just made the account just randomly because I just wanted to speak in. Yeah, it was just a quick one. Yeah, I just want to say I'm a big fan, Prof. I've been subscribed to you for a few months now. Obviously I'm from England. I'm 28 years old. Yeah, I think NATO really need to, in terms, just get the shit together. Really, I mean the whole thing in Estonia was just a joke. I mean, 12 minutes in Estonian airspace and nothing got done. I mean, it's just not a good look for us over here, especially with me being
So let me
close.
Let me stop you there for a second. It wasn't Estonian airspace. It wasn't too far from international, but they still knew what they were doing. They had their transponders
Absolutely.
off, and so it was like the kind of provocation. If they did something, then would Russia be then saying, "Well, you shouldn't have done this. They were right on the border. They were whatever." But they should have done something more significant than this with Poland. And because they didn't do Poland, they got Estonia, and then they got the Poland platform and whatever else is about to happen next. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously as well, I've followed this war since it first kicked off in 2022. I've also got a friend who's serving over there. He, he's joined up with the Azov, I think the 3rd Assault Brigade. He's obviously he's a military man himself. He served in the army. So obviously I worry for him, but I think it's incredibly brave what he's doing. I've not heard from him for a few weeks, so I'm hoping he's okay. I'm just going to assume it's probably because he's in the thick of things right now. But yeah, I just thought I'd come in and have a listen, seeing as I've been a fan of yours for a while, and it's good to just sort of hear like-minded people talking about what's going on.
Yeah. And I think that's the upside of doing this call-in kind of thing. That, and it's easier on me mentally to not have to try to read whatever I'm trying to do and then answer at the same time. Okay, who else has a question? Ron, did you get to go? If not, Alex is chomping at the bit, I'm sure. So, Ron, if you want to ask your question, and Alex, if he doesn't ask within 3 seconds, you can jump back in because maybe he's there, maybe he is not. So, 3, 2, 1. Alex, you're back.
Right. So what I wanted to offer, in addition, what you and Rachel just discussed, is this observation. And I could be wrong. I could be missing something. There is a part of MAGA, and I believe you were calling to that, who are not just random populists. So they're not just against support for Ukraine because it's financial, so whatever. They're extremely pro-Russia. For example, the
Mhm.
other week you were quoting, well, not quoting, you were showing the video, with the JD Vance, making a point, that we need to make peace and we need to become like chummy with Russia. We need, like, they have so many resources, oil, gas, rare minerals, and so on. So he has access to information. So he knows that US is a net exporter of oil and gas. Like, we don't need to import these resources. We're not going to develop this together after Exxon and after Soviet Union and then Putin's Russia just seized funds and seized investments, so no one is going to be investing there. There are no minerals to speak of, so if Soviet Union could have mined them, he would mine them. If Putin for the last 30 years could have mined them, he would have mined them. So there is nothing. So his position is not MAGA. His position is rather MRAGA, if you like, make Russia great again. He's not random on that, or at least I never heard him spoke against Russia.
Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah.
So he's not random in that.
Yeah, to your greater point, though, there's a spectrum here. There's old school conservatives like me, and then there's MAGA, who are more populist, and then there's a small slice over here that's like really just bought the Russian line, like, oh, they're really real Christians, and the West is getting decadent, or whatever kind of propaganda points that the Russians are trying to feed them, and you can see that especially in the big name folks in social media. There's some that are just like really like we're just really down with Russia, and now Russia is trying to promote that. Like, I was showing, did I show this yesterday? I think I showed it yesterday, how Kirill Dmitriev, I think it was like saying stuff about Charlie Kirk, pro Charlie Kirk, kind of like they're trying to use that to kind of embrace, and so they're going to fool some people in the process. So that's very unfortunate. So that is part of the mix. It used to be that the Russians were cozying up to the left. Think Vietnam, and I mean the previous decades before Trump. It used to be Russia would play that tune on the left. Now they're playing it on the right. So, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Can I say something about that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. We got 4 minutes and we're done.
From yeah, I just have a quick comment. From my understanding, the Russians are and have been promoting both the far right, and the far left.
Say that one more time.
From my understanding, they have been, and they are currently, the Russians are promoting both the far right and the far left narrative on social media.
That's what I thought you were saying. So what you see even in the Mueller report was that, what they want to do is stir the pot, and so they'll promote a Black Lives Matter kind of group, not Black Lives Matter per se, but something that's named something similar to it, and a white supremacy group simultaneously, in order to just stir the pot. Because if we're at odds with each other, if we're at each other, then that's a win for them. Okay,
there is more than that.
There is more than that.
So essentially, there is again, like referring to Mueller report, so they didn't found, that say Russia specifically wanted to elect specifically Donald Trump, and there was no collusion, but they were helping so they were helping specifically Donald Trump, but there was no collusion. Like Donald Trump was not asking for this, or was not getting paid for this, and so on. But if you look at some MAGA pro-Russian speakers, they're consistent in that, and I bet you that these billions, that Putin spent on his own fake election, even bigger billions are spent on influencers, if you like, in quotes, in US. So if you suddenly see someone who is not deliberately, like a good speaker or good thinker or good presentation, but suddenly has millions of views, or some of them are bots, and some of them are just billions invested into that personality.
That's right.
Specifically,
they double down on what they perceive to work, right? Like, there's no earthly reason that Jackson Hinkle should have 3.2 million subscribers on Twitter.
Right.
Like something's not right there, right? I mean, he's never seen an authoritarian he doesn't like, and so some are bots and some are just lots of support for him. So, okay. I promised you that these are going to be short. They're still short. We're done. Thank you, my friends, for your time, and thank you for. We'll be back on, I think, Thursday. All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.